Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Brown Bears Sports Report. I'm your host, Scott Cordishi. Glad you could join us. The Brown Bears Sports Report is brought to you each week by United Healthcare. You put care into everything that you do. United Healthcare does too. United Healthcare, health plans that care for you and your family every step of the way. See what care can do at uhc.com. Well, this week, joining us on the Brown Bears Sports Report gives us great pleasure to welcome the Brown men's lacrosse program. Let's say hello to their head coach, Mike Daly. Coach Daly, how are you tonight?
We're great. We're great. Thanks, Scott. It's great to be here. Honestly, frankly, just talking about lacrosse. So thanks for having us.
Let's welcome a couple of your student athletes to the show. First of all, a senior long stick midi from Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Adrian Enchill is with us. Adrian, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
Adrian, thanks for being with us. And your teammate, junior midi, Nolen Rockefeller from New York, New York. Nolen, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Well, Nolen, thanks for being our guest as well. Coach, we'll bring it back to you. As we speak today, it's been 393 days since your team last played a game, but who's counting? But boy, was it a memorable one. You guys knocked off the defending national champs and at the time, 8th ranked Virginia 14-13 at the brand new Center for Lacrosse and Soccer. I suppose if you have to go out, that's a good way to go out before the pandemic, right? That was such a great, great game.
Yeah, but as a coach, what we were really devastated about was, we just felt like that game. A lot of the light bulbs were going off. We had, a lot of new faces out there. Nolen had a big goal in that game. Colby Gendron was just starting to get his kind of legs underneath him, and just a lot of good things were starting to come about, and we were excited as heck to build on those throughout a league schedule and throughout that season. So to have lost that and now to come, like you said, 393 days later, it's definitely time to get back out there for sure.
Adrian, take me back to that Virginia game a year ago. That certainly was exciting.
Yeah, that game, it was certainly exciting. The atmosphere was amazing. It was amazing to be a part of that game. And that day, I think everybody in that locker room, we knew that we were capable of winning that game. And we started slow, but we figured it out, and we kept chopping at the bit.
So Nolen, talk to us about, Coach mentioned you did score a goal in that exciting win over Virginia. What do you remember about that game and about that, abbreviated season last year?
Oh, absolutely. Certainly a game I'll never forget. It was a great team win in front of a pretty packed crowd of a lot of supportive fans, parents, and friends. And yeah, I was glad to have contributed to that game, and I certainly can't take all the credit there. You had a great dodge from Augie, drew 2 up at the top, right beneath the box, and just was happy to have finished it off. But I think we both agree that really, the pride and joy came, 2 quarters later when that final horn sounded, and we, we're the winning team. So definitely a great memory.
Adrian, it's been a difficult year for all of us, obviously, dealing with the pandemic as best we can. What have you been doing, or what were you doing to try to keep your game in shape, so to speak?
Yeah, for Brown Lacrosse, really, not just myself, we have a saying where it's chop wood, carry water. And fundamentally what that means is we stick to our fundamentals day in and day out. So it doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday, it doesn't matter if it's a Wednesday, we're going to show up with the same mentality and continue to find ways to grow as a team and as individual players ourselves. So in terms of when the pandemic happened and things were shut down, we were finding ways to bond together and find more team cohesion, or just find ways to become better athletes on our own. And whether that was asking for help or finding little tricks and tips on the internet to keep growing as players and athletes, we certainly did that. So that's what I've done. And I know my teammates as well have also prepared.
Nolen, take us back to the beginning of the pandemic. What were you doing from an athletic standpoint? Were you trying to stay in shape with doing some cardio type stuff, lifting weights? And then how about from a team perspective? Did you guys connect via Zoom or what have you last spring and summer just to kind of stay in touch with one another?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge at first, being removed from some of our typical routines. Using any physical gyms, and definitely being together as well. We use the motivation of being together to get a lot of our work done, and being deprived from our day-to-day interactions was certainly an obstacle at first. But I think by consistently having communication and keeping in touch with one another to figure out what sort of those strategies were that were useful, definitely made the pandemic a period in which we were able to improve, whether it was by makeshift home workouts. Definitely remember a lot of time going on runs. Just I think our whole team knew that the return to the field, although it wasn't as imminent as we would have liked, but it would eventually come, was something that drove us to keep our work ethic up and be ready for that return when it arrived.
Mike, the new Center for Lacrosse and Soccer was built in almost record time, and you guys were able to debut it last year. Take us through this facility. Is this something that you think will really help the program in terms of recruiting and in other instances? And is it complete? Is the branding on the walls complete, or is there still finishing touches that need to be made?
Yeah, no, thank goodness we were able to sneak the construction in before all heck broke loose here. So so everything is done. It's 100% functional. We still have a bunch of little projects to complete. Like you said, the branding isn't up on the walls. There's a few little nuts and bolts that need to be tightened, but other than that, it's 100% fully functional. And that's been the biggest shame. I mean, the biggest reason that we started this project, frankly, was to enhance the student athlete experience and just put those guys, their locker room, their training room, the coaches' offices, film rooms, everything in one place, so they could be efficient with their day, efficient with their time down here, and just make it a first-class experience where they could interact with their teammates in the locker room and lounge areas, and certainly have that contact and time with their coaches. And so that's, like I said, been the biggest challenge, because we haven't been able to use the locker rooms. We're not doing indoor meetings, so we've been trying to find those ways, setting up video out in the stands and setting up video out in the mezzanine areas, so that we can still have that person-to-person contact that allows us to build the relationships and kind of build that cohesion that the players were talking about. So we're finding ways to make use of it, but it's a game-changing facility for sure. Our guys have everything they need right down here. It's attached to the field. They can come down, get their shots in, do whatever their extras are, everything in one place. So it really make their time efficient, and we're real excited about the future when all this is behind us.
Adrian, not that you guys didn't have a beautiful locker room in the Pizzatola Sports Center, but as Coach mentioned, how much easier is it going to be when things do return to normal? And I know you got a taste of it last year before the season was ended, to have everything right there, to be in a building where you have your locker room, training room, offices, meeting space, and of course the field right there.
Yeah, it certainly enhances the student athlete experience. It provides us the opportunity to do everything in one spot and be more efficient with our days. And I can speak for all the guys on our team. We're just really thankful that we were able to experience it, and that also we have alumni who are willing to donate and help us out with that experience as a student athlete.
Nolen, talk to us a little bit about maybe what you miss most about the pre-pandemic norm. And I know we're heading back in that direction as people start to get vaccinated more, et cetera. What do you miss most about when things were normal over a year ago?
Sure. There's certainly a lot of things that I miss. Many having to do with lacrosse and the traditional lacrosse experience. But I think just overall interacting with the greater Brown campus and community. I mean, there's no surrogate source for the vast trove of intellectual ability and just interesting people on this campus. So that's certainly up at near the top of my list, along with all of the lacrosse elements that we've missed out on in this time.
Adrian, you're from Western Mass, Pittsfield. You went to Westminster Prep. Tell us how you wound up here at Brown, because I do know there's a connection between your brothers and Coach Daly dating back to his days at Tufts.
Yeah, so my recruiting story is a little bit interesting. I was actually originally going to Notre Dame all the way until my senior year, and Coach Daly had made a transfer over from Tufts to Brown, and he reached out, and I was like, oh, Brown's a lot closer to home, being from Western Mass, and I went and did the visit. And I immediately fell in love with the campus, and both my brothers spoke so highly of Coach Daly. They were both able to win national championships with him and had great experiences where they really learned a lot of life lessons. So those all really contributed to my decision to end up at Brown.
Nolen, you're from New York, but you went to prep school in Western Mass as well, Deerfield Academy. Tell us who was recruiting you and how did you wind up at Brown?
So I did have attention from a few other schools, but once I came into contact with Coach Daly and the Brown coaching staff, immediately his values surrounding lacrosse and life, were very consistent with my own. And his vision for the team was something that I instantly bought into and believed. So very grateful to have been given that opportunity and for it to have worked out. So.
Coach, I know during this pandemic, a lot of it has been filled with a quote unquote dead period in terms of recruiting. But what has it been like in terms of recruiting? You and your staff, obviously you're relegated to just watching film, but there was really no high school season to speak of last spring. So how has recruiting changed for you this past year?
Yeah, no, definitely building on the brother theme too. Nolen's brother Teddy is one of our upcoming commits, so real excited about that and just keeping that family and that brother tradition that we take very seriously and we hold very dearly. So yeah, I think the recruiting, it's been pretty cool to see a lot of the events evolve into pandemic way of life, frankly, and frankly, a lot of the recruiting events got better with announcers and a lot more color, a lot more information on kids. So, and thankfully, I work at Brown, and it's a world-class place and sells a lot, has a lot of things going for it, obviously, and sells itself. So, we really feel we haven't missed too much of a beat, in terms of attracting great kids, attracting great players. I do think you miss a little bit in the live recruiting of, how are players acting on the sidelines? How are they hustling when the cameras maybe already panned upfield or some of those kind of intangible things? But, our assistant coaches have done, as they always have, a remarkable job identifying great players for sure, but more importantly, I think the right players for our program.
Coach, tell us what practice has been like these past few weeks. Was there a little bit in the fall of, having to knock off the rust and maybe again this spring? Or tell us what practice has been like. How's the team looked in your eyes?
Yeah, no, it's been, I feel awful for our players. It just, it's one thing if you're practicing toward something that's a known, every year we start practice in the fall. We know when our first game is going to be. We come back in the spring. We know when that game is going to be. And it's just been a long series of not knowing, and I really, we've faced that challenge and we've addressed that challenge every day, in terms of working toward something that we didn't really know if and when it was going to come. So, I think that's a pretty big challenge for, the 18 to 22-year-olds that we have in our program. And so, really seeing this semester with us at least being able to move through the phases, which we didn't do in the fall. Which each phase moving up has been a nice boost in energy and optimism and excitement. And then clearly being now in phase 4 and cleared to play games, it's feeling as normal as we could feel.
Adrian, I feel like if any team is equipped to handle the difficulty of the last year, I feel like your team is. And I say that because Brown State is your motto, and we all know what that means and what it embodies. It's a toughness, it's a competitiveness. Tell us what Brown State means to you and your teammates.
Yeah, so Brown State is really that grit mentality, kind of bluntly just being a dog whenever you're in between those white lines. So for us, that we want to embody that Brown State mentality, and seeing all the alums that have done that in the past, we want to hold ourselves to that standard as well.
Nolen, how has practice looked to you? And then what are your expectations for this year's team?
Yeah, well, every time the guys on our team step on the field, we're doing it with our ultimate goal of winning an Ivy League title and winning a national championship in mind. So these last few weeks, although they posed its challenges, I've seen nothing but that reflection of our large ambitions. Guys have maintained the competitive spirit and have been looking for ways in which we can improve every day. And expectations is nothing short of that. With this first-class coaching staff and just a roster with a work ethic like no other, I am confident that we can achieve some of those big overarching goals that we've set for this program.
Adrian, earlier in the show, we talked about how great our alumni are and the fact that they contributed to this brand new Center for Lacrosse and Soccer that you guys are in. It also provides a great network, right, for student athletes like yourself. And I understand you've had some pretty neat internships, one of which was actually with Joe Dowling in the investment office. Can you talk to us about the internships that you've held while you've been here at Brown?
Yeah, so I've had some amazing internships, and I'm really interested in finance. So primarily my internships have been around finance, and one of them was working in the Brown investment office. So pretty much with that, you're raising capital for Brown, and you're working with a diverse set of asset classes. And it was a great experience, and I learned a lot, and that really came from the Brown alum. And I think that they give back so much to and for us that when I'm in that position, it makes me want to do the same down the line. So they've been extremely great to all of us, and they're always there for us, and they're a great support group.
Considering the rate of return Joe Dowling got for Brown's endowment during his time as chief investment officer, I would imagine that he would be a good guy to learn under, right?
Yes, indeed.
We actually call that the Adrian Enchill effect, Scott. So it's
silly
about
me.
the same time that Adrian started there. That's when things started taking off.
Makes sense, Coach. Makes sense. Nolen, how about you? Have you had a chance to secure any internships at all in your first couple of summers here?
Yeah, I have. And similar to Enchill, I also am pursuing a career in finance, and a lot of my recent summer activity has been with those goals in mind. I also spent a summer with Mr. Dowling in the endowment and learned a great load there. And then this past summer, I kind of kept up with the same focus by spending a few weeks at Dartmouth's Tuckbridge business program. So that's all leading me towards hopefully a career in Wall Street.
Coach, I know how important our alumni is to this program and how closely knit it is. And you've done a great job of keeping that community close together and well connected to the program, to the point where during the pandemic over the last year, you had multiple Zooms with Brown Lacrosse alumni. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, they're beyond enthusiastic, and it's just a reflection of how special a place Brown is, frankly. Those guys really, just reflect as fondly back on their playing days and their days on campus on the Hill. So Yeah, no, that we keep in touch with those guys, and they organize events. Sometimes they organize events before the events and events after the events, so that sometimes when they get a little rowdy, they want to make sure that they leave the right impression for the people who aren't as ingrained in the culture. So no, they're a great group of guys. They're always around, always asking how they can help, where they can help. There's so many cool pictures from that Virginia game. Everywhere you see in the stadium, behind the bench, there were the young alums. Right above them were some of the older alums. Out on the hill behind the scoreboard were, the rowdy alums. And so it's just everywhere you turn, those guys are supporting, loving, and doing whatever they can to support our team.
Adrian, speaking of being supportive, I thought it was really cool last year when we learned that the Ivy League was shutting it down for spring sports. Our women's team was hosting a nationally ranked Virginia Tech team, a team which they beat at home as well, in what would be the final Ivy League sports competition of the spring. And you guys, I think, were either going out to or had just come from practice, and you were in the stands rooting them on, kind of knowing the implications that this is it for a while, right? This is the last sporting event, and we're going to try to cheer, our women's team on to victory.
Yeah, that was something we certainly could resonate with them as student athletes. We all train extremely hard, and on top of that, they're our friends as well. So getting any opportunity to support them, it's great, and it's something that we always look forward to doing.
So you mentioned that you'll eventually pursue a career in finance. Do you have any idea what you would like to do exactly upon graduation?
Yeah, currently I have an internship with UBS on Wall Street. So I'm going to be working in their investment banking division. And investment banking, it really came about through my other internship experiences and kind of learning more about finance. And that kind of guided me down that path. But I'm pretty excited to be working at UBS this summer.
Nolen, what would you like to do, or what ultimately can you see yourself doing after you graduate next spring?
You might think it's staged, but I'll also be working in at UBS's Midtown office this summer. So yeah, Adrian, it looks like we're teammates for life here.
Okay, ready.
Coach Daly, we know that most teams, they're in league play right now. How do you go about, or will you go about, trying to schedule more opponents if you can? Is it just a matter of picking up the phone and dealing with past relationships and current relationships that you have in the business? I would imagine that this isn't an easy thing, because these are certainly uncharted waters that we're sailing through right now.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of challenges, and just from the Ivy League putting a mileage on us, so we can only compete within a certain mileage radius. And then, for example, everyone thinks, well, Providence should be the easiest. Well, their league put a 2 non-conference game limitation on them, and they've already exhausted that with early season games. So, so they can't play. So you're exactly right. I mean, it's phone calls, it's begging, it's pleading, it's asking, it's and then it's making it work, like I said, under those limitations. So and then the challenges of other teams in the middle of their league conferences, and do they really want to play a midweek game or fit us in or find a way? So there certainly has been a lot of challenges with it, but that's what our program loves. We feed on that, and so and we don't know failure or stop. So we're pretty confident we'll be able to put together a 5 or 6 game schedule, by the end of this month, and then we're also just being in phase 4 in that position to, should there be a postponement or a cancellation, jump right in and be that kind of mercenary squad that shows up on a day's notice, or actually I think we need a 48-hour notice for testing. But we're that team that'll that'll be there, showing up whenever we can.
Guys, good luck. Adrian, look, I don't know if this is the last time we'll see you in a brown lacrosse uniform this spring. If it is, thank you for your 4 years of service to the program, and good luck in whatever your future holds.
Thank you very much.
All right, Coach Daly, Adrian Enchill, and Nolen Rockefeller, our guests on the Brown Bears Sports Report.
This has been a presentation of Learfield IMG College.